Hi everyone, I'm Stan Allen. Welcome to Paranormal Yakker. My guest today is acclaimed paranormal author and rock journalist Maxim W Furek. We'll be talking about his book, The Lost Tribes of Bigfoot, a book that challenges traditional beliefs about Bigfoot. Maxim W Furek, welcome to Paranormal Yakker.
Stan, thanks so much. I'm looking forward to our conversation, and I'm really very honored to be on your program. So I've heard so much about you. So thank you so much.
I thank you, and I'm honored that you are my guest. So it's a win-win situation. Great. When it comes to cryptids, ground zero for you was your book, Coal Region Hoodoo, which had 2 chapters about Bigfoot. However, your entry into the Bigfoot multiverse occurred when you attended the annual Florida Bigfoot Conference in Ocala. What, Maxim, happened there that brought you into the Bigfoot multiverse?
Great question, Stan. My wife and I are snowbirds. We spend winters in Florida and we spend summers in Pennsylvania. So when we're down in Florida, I go hiking all the time. I look for the swamp ape. And I had the opportunity to attend the Ocala Bigfoot Expo a couple of years ago, meet a lot of people, get interviewed on a paranormal podcast from Tallahassee. And that sort of opened up the doors and got me a little bit of notoriety down there. So as you mentioned, Coal Region Hoodoo was the catalyst. I had 2 chapters of the Bigfoot hypotheses and the Bigfoot enigma. And I was trying to just figure out what this Bigfoot, this Sasquatch thing was. And I realized that there was no way to do it with two chapters, but those 2 chapters in Coal Region Hoodoo opened up the doors. And all of a sudden I was invited to expos. And I mean, I don't know why it was just those 2 chapters, but what I did was I decided that the 2 chapters weren't enough. I had to go further. And so that's why the latest book, The Lost Tribes of Bigfoot, wanted to continue with that program, with that project, and get it right. So that's why I did that. But it's a wonderful multiverse. I mean, the people that are into Bigfoot are just wonderful and welcoming and, pretty neat. They've been good to me.
The Lost Tribes of Bigfoot explores the uncharted waters surrounding the cryptid's forbidden realm, and it's done in a gripping, provocative, controversial manner. What, Maxim, was your reasoning for approaching the subject of cryptids the way you did?
Great question, Stan. The Lost Tribes of Bigfoot is actually a metaphor for all of the possibilities of what Sasquatch could be. And I use the word Sasquatch rather than Bigfoot because that's the coastal people from British Columbia, the term that they've been using for thousands of years. That's the appropriate term. When you ask what exactly is Bigfoot, well, some people think it's Neanderthal or Australopithecus or Gigantopithecus or a missing link or whatever. So there's all these entities out there that may be the possibility. So that's what the Lost Tribes of Bigfoot represent, those possibilities in the world of cryptozoology.
A Canadian prospector named Albert Ostman claimed to have been abducted by a family of Sasquatch and held captive by them for 6 days. How did he describe his captivity?
That's probably one of the most interesting and fascinating chapters in the Lost Tribes of Bigfoot. Albert Ostman was, I believe, a Swedish-Canadian hunter-trapper. And in 1924, something was causing some havoc around his campsite, stealing things, footprints, all these things. So Ostman decided to do this. He was going to hide inside his sleeping bag with a rifle. And when the culprit arrived, he was going to jump out and shoot the person. Well, what happened was it didn't turn out the way he had planned. Ostman fell asleep and something hoisted him up and took him for what he thought was miles and laid him down in this valley. And here there was probably what could be best described as a family of Sasquatch, a mother, father, a son and daughter. And they were watching Ostman. They were curious. The daughter fed him sweet grass. They weren't malicious, didn't do anything to concern him. But at one point, Ostman felt that maybe they were going to use him for sex. They were going to use him for procreation. So he got a little bit weirded out and decided he had to make a plan. So what he did was Ostman had chewing tobacco. He enticed the older Sasquatch to take the chewing tobacco. He did. He got nauseous, and during the fact when the Sasquatch was getting sick and vomiting, Ostman took off. So this was 1924. He didn't say anything. And then there started to be a number of narratives in the British Columbia press about the wild man, about the Sasquatch, about these creatures. So at that point, and again, Ostman wasn't looking for publicity, but at that point, he contacted John Green, a British Columbian journalist and one of the original Four Horsemen of Sasquatchery. And John Green interviewed him. And keep in mind, Stan, that this was in the days before the internet. This was the days before microfiche files, and when you didn't have the opportunity to go to Google and find out about these cryptids. So everything that Albert Ostman said was based on his experience. And John Green felt that it was accurate, that it was genuine. I mean, we hadn't heard anything previous to this, but Ostman was able to describe how a family of Sasquatch acted. He said the one thing that was unusual, he said there was no smell. And typically when people encounter Sasquatch, there's this smell of a wet dog or rotten eggs, something pretty horrible. But there was no smell at all, which could lead us to believe that perhaps that smell is some kind of mechanism, either a weapon or a warning device or whatever. 1924, the first and only, it was one and done, the first and only case of a Bigfoot abduction. And then fast forward to 1961, Betty and Barney Hill, going through the White Mountains of New Hampshire, are abducted by a UFO and probed. And then that launched a cottage industry of people like Whitney Strieber and John Mack and all these people that claim they too were abducted. So 1924 with Bigfoot and 1961 with UFOs, they're connected, but two different realms. The abductions and ufology became widespread and became part of J. Allen Hynek's Close Encounters of the First, Second, and actually the fourth kind. So Ostman played a very pivotal role in the history of Sasquatchery.
Chestnut Ridge in Pennsylvania is a region with a long history of reported Bigfoot sightings and other paranormal activity, and has been the subject of documentaries and paranormal investigations. Are there any theories as to why the area has become a magnet for so many Bigfoot sightings and paranormal phenomena?
Glad you brought that up. I have an article on Chestnut Ridge in the current issue of Fate magazine. It's the Bible of the paranormal. Our friend Phyllis Galdi down there in North Carolina. So we talk about that. But according to the experts, either Pennsylvania or Florida are number 3 in Bigfoot sightings after Washington State and after California. So take your pick. There's a whole lot of people looking for the swamp ape in Florida and a whole lot looking for Bigfoot in Pennsylvania. In Chestnut Ridge, a 3-county area in Western Pennsylvania that goes from Pittsburgh down to West Virginia, there's the most sightings that we've seen, not only of Bigfoot, but Bigfoot and flying saucers, or Bigfoot and orbs combined. So that, to me, lends to some sort of a paranormal entity, some kind of a paranormal property with the two of them, and a paranormal connection. Why Western Pennsylvania? Why Chestnut Ridge? Some people believe that it's a portal, that some way that things are traveling through that thing. We don't know. All we can do, all guys like you and I can do, is try to come up with definitions and terms and hypotheses. And then you might say, well, you know what, I think that makes sense, I'm going to go along with that. Or maybe, no, I don't think that's going to work. So we're just talking about this like Freud and Jung did. We're just trying to give it parameters. The paranormal has to have a beginning and end, and an upside and downside and all that. So we're just trying to go and chisel out the parameters of the paranormal to figure out what it is. But Chestnut Ridge is a wonderful example of some of those oddities. I mean, it's just amazing.
The Patterson Patterson-Gimlin film of a female Bigfoot was shot in 1967 and is probably the most famous film taken of a Bigfoot, and it's touted by many as being undeniable proof that Bigfoot exists. Others claim it was an elaborate hoax orchestrated by the filmmakers. What, Maxim, has your research shown about its authenticity?
It's been called the Zapruder film of the paranormal. You know, when John F. Kennedy was assassinated in '63, this guy Zapruder took a film. And that Zapruder film has been analyzed and so many times, as well as the Patterson-Gimlin film. I believe it's legitimate. There's no zippers. It's not a man in an ape suit. The way this creature walked it just looks like a creature. You could see the glute muscles. It looks like a cryptid. One interesting thing, John Napier, he was the British primatologist, 1972. He was in charge of the Smithsonian Institute, and he was given a copy of the Patterson-Gimlin film. So he had an opportunity to look at it and to scrutinize it along with Russian and American scientists. Napier believed that it was a hoax. And the reason he said it was a hoax, because he felt that they just cobbled together several characteristics. The upper part of Patty was simian. It was like an ape, but the bottom part was like a hominid. It was a bipedal creature that walked like a human. So that was 1972. In 1974, they discovered Australopithecus in Ethiopia. They called Lucy, it was man's earliest ancestor. They called it Lucy after the Beatles, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. So those researchers, they got drunk and they listened to the Beatles that night. But that was in 1974. But when John Napier heard about this, he said, wait a second, that Lucy is just like Patty, upper body like an ape and the bottom like a hominid. He goes, I was wrong. He became a convert to the Patterson-Gimlin film. He was one of the skeptics, one of the critics. And it was a great example of the scientific community coming full circle and giving us the data that we needed to go and make a determination. And I love the Patterson-Gimlin film because we debate it, we talk about it. It makes more sense than, say, the 2023 Colorado train Bigfoot video. And even Paul Friedman's Bigfoot video from, I think, 1994. So the Patterson-Gimlin film holds up, and it is as reputable as the 2004 Nimitz clip, the UFO that was sighted off the coast of San Diego, 1967 and 2004, two legitimate videos that sort of validate Bigfoot and also UFOs. So, again, another connection between Sasquatch and flying saucers.
That leads me to ask you the following. There are those who believe there is a UFO-Bigfoot connection. Aside from what you just said, what are the reasons for saying that?
Well, again, we have witnesses. The Bigfoot people are looking for flesh and blood. And thus far, we haven't found any DNA. We haven't found carcass. What we have is we have evidence such as witnesses, the smells, the grunts, the wood knocks, the wooden structures, things like that. Maybe pebbles being thrown at the Sasquatchers, but we don't have a body, and so it's not good enough for the scientific community. Likewise, in the realm of ufology, we have people that are looking for nuts and bolts. But so far, all we have are anecdotal narratives. We have Roswell and Kenneth Arnold, and we have all of these whistleblowers that allegedly worked for government secret operations who have come forward and stated that they have been working in projects where they reverse engineer these alien crafts and all that. But we have yet to see any of the crafts. Now, keep in mind that the United States government had two important congressional hearings. They had one in July of 2003, where David Grush came forward and said that he knows where the bodies are and he knows where the vehicles are, and he will tell us, because it's confidential, but he'll tell the right people under the right circumstances. Well, it hasn't happened yet. And they did it again. The government did it again in November of 2024. And they had Luis Elizondo come forward, and Luis said the same thing. He knows that they know. So again, we have people talking the talk. They're not walking the talk. So I'm frustrated and I'm angry. And as a Floridian, I'm a resident of Florida, I wrote letters to 7 people that were on that congressional UFO committee, including Marco Rubio and including Chuck Schumer. Out of those 7, it was only Marco Rubio that answered my letter. And I was petitioning him to encourage David Grush to show his cards. It's not enough to talk the talk. Let us know what you have. You've taken us to the brink. You've teased us. You're this close. Show us what you got. So at that point, unfortunately, Marco Rubio was tabbed as Secretary of State. He's out of the UFO game, and now I don't have any contact that I can deal with. But I'm going to continue to write to my representatives, and I would encourage your listeners to do the same thing. The government knows something, and they're not telling us what that is. Let's get on the representatives and senators to go and open up these doors so we could find out what the government knows.
Your research for the writing of the Lost Tribes of Bigfoot involved you scouring American and Canadian records for evidence of the elusive cryptids. You also pursued other sources for the writing of the book. How extensive, Maxim, was the research that you did for it?
Well, I think, when you take a look at the book, I believe my book is a comprehensive account of Bigfoot and all of the theories about what it could be, including the hoaxers. And I talk about the Minnesota Iceman, and I talk about the Piltdown Man, these hoaxes that were perpetrated for various reasons, either nationalistic pride or to make money, or for the hoaxers' 15 minutes of fame. But I talk about that because even the hoaxers, unfortunately, are part of this whole tapestry, this whole cryptozoology tapestry. So I talk about that, but I've talked to numerous people. I talk to the believers, the people that go out there into the woods looking for Sasquatch and listening to their narrative. And you know what? My theory is that there's a portal, a interdimensional portal by which both Bigfoot and flying saucers go through. They shapeshift through this parallel dimension, through this interdimensional conduit to come here. Bigfoot, they say that Bigfoot doesn't walk, it glides, that it has rapid transport, that you by location, that you see them in front of you and then you see them behind you. And so we take a look at that, which smacks of the paranormal realm. But I'll say this, Stan, being a Canadian, in 1958, when the Humboldt Times, the newspaper in Northern California, started to write about Bigfoot, they were writing about the Californian abominable snowman. And they had thousands of people that wrote letters saying, yes, I believe in this California abominable snowman, or yes, I too have seen this thing. But that was 1958. But then we started to realize, wait a second, Sasquatch has been part of the British Columbian and coastal people's tradition for thousands of years. The white man, the white American, just found out about it in 1958, but it's been around for thousands of years in spoken language and totem poles and superstitions and all that. The tribes there in northern Canada believed that to see Sasquatch was a blessing, believed that Sasquatch was the protector of the environment, and just a whole lot of things like that are just so honorable and respectful. I mean, when you talk about Bigfoot, I mean, who would think that it's almost like a religion where this creature is respected and venerated?
This next question is a follow-up to something you just said. What, Maxim, can you tell me about the world of Bigfoot, synchronicity, and the embracing of interdimensional theories?
Yeah, what I did was my proposition was this: if it's not flesh and blood, And we've had plenty of time to look in the Himalayas for abominable snowman, for Yeti, for the Russian Almas, for Bigfoot, for Sasquatch, for skunk ape. We've had thousands of years to find DNA. We have never come up with anything. We've had some false starts. We've had some false flags, but we haven't come up with the real thing. So my proposal was this: if it's not flesh and blood, what could it be? And one person who was really interesting was Jacques Vallée. Jacques Vallée was the one who said that the extra terrestrial hypotheses does not work. And that's the one where the space brother is traveling trillions of light years to get from their planet to ours. It would take too long. It would take too much energy. Nobody, not even the advanced space brothers, have that technology and know-how to do that. And Jacques Vallée was saying that it has to be something like the interdimensional theory. Now, none of this is new. Everything is predicated on something that we knew from before us. For example, Einstein and Rosen talked about the bridge theory. You know, we call it the wormhole theory. And they said that maybe there's holes within that space-time continuum by which people can travel. It's a theory, but if it works, that would explain why a spaceship could get from A to B in a microsecond, or a Bigfoot could travel from their dimension to ours in the flash of an eye. One other thing too, if that theory's true, one hypothesis is that when Bigfoot enters from their dimension to ours, they bring with them this, what we think is a stench, that horrible smell, but it could represent the other dimension. And that's something that is pretty interesting. So again, we don't know, but there's a hypothesis, there's this theory. So, write it down, play with it, either accept it or reject it. But again, we need theories, we need words, we need language to figure out the paranormal, to figure out something that is almost incomprehensible. So that's why we talk like this, and that's why we make our conjectures.
In your book, you also delve into mass hallucinations and Swiss psychiatrist and psychotherapist Carl Jung's collective consciousness. Can you expand a bit on that?
Again, take a look at some of the possibilities. Could it be mass hallucinations? Well, look at the drone hysteria of 2024. When everybody was looking into the sky, it was like a Rorschach test, and everybody was saying something. There was a lot of fear and hysteria in the air in 2024. And it wasn't just here in America, it was over in the UK as well. I don't know if you were having sightings in Canada, but certainly, okay, it was just widespread, and it might have been a form of mass hallucinations. We were all looking into the sky, and we all seem to be seeing pretty much the same thing. So again, that's never been clarified and explained. We're still left hanging as to what that was. But Jung's collective unconsciousness, absolutely. We are part of our ancestors. We have our ancestral DNA. And whatever it was that scared them, whether it was mammoths or woolly mammoths or saber-toothed tigers or whatever, that's in our amygdala. And when we're going through a dark alley and see a shape, that could be a residue from what was in our ancestors' collective unconscious, in their DNA, that stays with us to today. It's all the same. We share the same energy and vibration and light. I think one thing that people should realize, especially during these very chaotic times, is that we have a lot more similarity than we realize, and especially with our vibrational level and all that. So it's good to be with the same tribe, with the same not only collective unconsciousness, but collective vibration as well.
The Lost Tribes of Bigfoot has been published by Hangar One Publishing, utilizing innovative immersive book technology. That has my curiosity. What, Maxim, is immersive book technology?
That's a great question. Doug and Alex Hychek are the CEOs behind Hangar One, and they're the guys that gave us Monster Quest. But they have a thing called IBT, Immersive Book Technology, and it's a series of barcodes that are imprinted throughout the book. And if you take your phone's camera it'll open up a video of me, a brief video of me giving a synopsis of those chapters. So it's sort of like traditional technology that's been retrofitted, just like with the alien technology. So they've used that, and it's just wonderful. And people that have read the book, they always comment about the IBT. They've never seen anything like it. It's relatively new. And I'm just like so fortunate that they decided to utilize that with my book, because it adds another dimension to the book. It's great. I mean, my book is unique, I think, not only because of the research and because I like to believe I have the ability to distill complexities into something that's more understandable, but because it has IBT, it makes it unique among all of the hundreds and hundreds of books that are about Bigfoot that are out there. I mean, it's a tough market, I'll tell you.
Should viewers of Paranormal Yakker want to buy The Lost Tribes of Bigfoot and learn about other books you've written, how, Maxim, can they do that?
They could do it in two ways, Stan. One, they could go and check me out on Amazon, Maxim W Furek, F-U-R-E-K. So I have a number of books that are listed in Amazon. Or if they wanted to purchase an autographed copy of one of my books, then they could contact me at maximfurek.com, and that's www.maximfurek.com, and I'd be glad to go and give them a great deal and sign my name. So it would be wonderful. But I'll tell you one other thing too. If any of your listeners do happen to purchase any of my books, please consider putting a review on Amazon or Goodreads. It really makes a difference for us authors. It really helps with the algorithm or the men in black, whatever's working behind the scenes. So that would be great if they could.
Maxim M. Furek, I thank you for being my guest on Paranormal Yakker. Yakking with you has been an extremely informative experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Stan. I appreciate it. And hopefully we could do this again down the line in the near future.
Hi, everyone. This is Stan Mallard of Paranormal Yakker. I hope you enjoyed the interview you just watched. So that you don't miss any upcoming shows, be sure to subscribe to my free YouTube channel. To do that, just press the subscribe button on your screen.